Blessings, Jaima, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with you, sharing the beautiful teachings on Goddess Lakshmi and her sister, Goddess Alakshmi, who I had never heard about until I recently traveled with Shunya ji on a retreat in April. And I learned about her, and I've been churning a lot of thoughts and contemplations that I'm very excited to share with you this evening. And so to begin, I thought we would practice together Padma Lotus Mudra, which is a mudra that we can bring together into our practice to bring us closer in intimacy with Goddess Lakshmi, with those beautiful values of self-worth, self-love, self-value, and to literally imagine ourselves sitting on a lotus of self-worth, receiving her golden aura, her golden light, her peace, her love, and her blessings. So to begin, we're going to place both hands in gratitude and place both of your thumbs right at your heart. And close your eyes, connect with your breath, and think about one thing that you're particularly grateful for in this moment. Breathe into that gratitude. As you slow down your breath and your mind, and you connect with your heart and your gratitude, feel your inner golden aura radiating outwards into the collective consciousness. And then gently, just like a lotus unfolds, bring your fingers together out, blooming in love and in light. And hold your lotus open while keeping your gratitude at the forefront. Just take a moment to be intimate right here, right now. Beautiful. When you feel ready, you can close your lotus, bring your fingers back into prayer, and gently lower your hands and open your eyes. And this Padma lotus is just a really easy, gentle, conscious, and mindful way to bring Ma Lakshmi into our day. So I'm excited to open up these slides and share with you some really profound teachings on Goddess Lakshmi, which of course you can find in Acharya Shunyaji's book, Roar Like a Goddess. So Goddess Lakshmi's wisdom is as deep as the ocean. We have limited time this evening, but I want to share some highlights about Ma Lakshmi. And Shunyaji's retreat was titled Awaken Your Abundance with Goddess Lakshmi, Reprogram Your Consciousness to Welcome Wealth. And of course, wealth means material and spiritual, emotional, all the different assets of what really means wealth. So moving on to the next slide. Evoking Lakshmi, which is what we just did. Simply by remembering Ma Lakshmi, she comes to you. And so the key to opening up to this Lakshmi wealth and abundance is unlocking Lakshmi in our heart through bhava or feeling. So doing that Padma Lotus Mudra is a beautiful way to evoke her and to bring her closer into your life. The next slide. Other ways that we can invoke Lakshmi into our day is through meditation, through visualization, through contemplation. And those three things, those first three bullet points we just did together. So you can have fun with this and you can be creative, and whatever comes to you when you think of Ma Lakshmi, you can include that in your meditation, your contemplations, and your visualizations. And mantras we're going to get into. She has a very powerful mantra to call her in, and her mudra, which we just did. So these are the main ways that we can evoke Lakshmi into our lives. And so the next slide. So one of the beautiful things about Ma Lakshmi and one of her symbolisms is her 4 hands. And her 4 hands have very deep significance because they represent the 4 human life goals of every single human being. And the Sanskrit term for that is purusharthas. And so these 4 hands that she has while sitting on her lotus represent very significant points in our spiritual journey. So in the next slide, we'll go over the 4 purusharthas, the life goals. Dharma. Dharma is our ethical duty in this lifetime, in this body. And by following our dharma, our life purpose, we get brought into higher harmony with our highest, truest self. Her second hand represents artha, and artha brings us abundance and wealth. So it's our material pursuits, which we all need, right, to live a life. Kama, which is her third hand, is pleasure and playfulness. And as humans, we are all attracted to things to bring us pleasure and playfulness, whether that's theater, whether that's cooking. We all have various things that we seek out in this life to bring us kama, and we should never be ashamed of it. And the most importantly, her 4th hand represents moksha, which is why we're all here, students in this lineage, receiving this wisdom, is to be reminded of our innate inner sovereignty. So these purusharthas, they're all included in Roar Like a Goddess, and you can find them in Shunyaji's teachings. We're not going to get too deep into them today because I really want to focus on some brand new Alakshmi teachings. But just to show dharma, like volunteer work and really thinking about what it is in this lifetime that you would like to share with others. What excites you? What brings you joy? And how are you serving your purpose in this world? And like we said, the next slide, artha is abundance and wealth. And bringing back that attitude of gratitude and being grateful for what we have, even if we don't have a lot, and just taking one conscious action at a time and really fostering in gratitude, and eventually what we deserve will be given to us. And so the next slide, kama. And kama is a really fun thing to think about with Ma Lakshmi, is what lights you up, what really brings you joy, what makes you smile, what brings out that inner child playfulness in your life. And Ma Lakshmi really encourages you to take a deep look at that and to pursue these things in your life that bring you that joy, that bring you that peace, and that bring you those feelings of inner abundance. And then ultimately, all of these 3 things lead to moksha. They lead to inner sovereignty, and they lead to us living up to the truth of our own spiritual nature. So as you can see, Ma Lakshmi just reminds us of the great gift of this life, and to use our life consciously, dharmically, ethically, and to celebrate that splendor, to celebrate that brilliance and that radiance. And she, as you can see in this slide, and her golden aura and her beautiful jewels and her crown, she's just so beautiful. She is the mother of this earth. She is, when you think of flowers and butterflies and fruits and plants and blossoms, and as Shunya Ji reminds us in Ayurveda Lifestyle Wisdom, she is the intelligence that manifests itself as existent and brings about manifestation in spite of the presence of opposing forces. And so really, when we think of Ma Lakshmi, what comes to mind is this sattva, pure beauty, even in opposing forces. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Some of her main attributes, which we've already talked about, is luminosity, her power of reflection, bringing harmony, balance by following our dharma, goodness, knowledge, purity, inner clarity. When you value yourself so deeply and you know your self-worth, you have a lot of clarity. Pleasure, contentment, peacefulness, the desire to be noble, good, and godly, and to be truthful. So these are all beautiful attributes of this goddess, and I'm sure what we are all aspiring to be. And so by evoking that bhava of Ma Lakshmi, simply remembering her, she comes to us and we can, really surrender anything that it is we need help with. We can use her agency and her support, and we can call upon her at any time that we need her in our life, and she will be there and she will remind us of all of these beautiful things that we have innately in our lives. So thank you, Ma Lakshmi. Okay, moving on to the next slide is Alakshmi. And we have some students here. Kalyani, I see Mary Lou is here. I had never heard of Alakshmi before. And as soon as I was introduced to Alakshmi, I had a lot of, oh yes, I know her. To be fully transparent, I have an intimacy with her that it gave me, learning about Alakshmi gave me this form and this context that all of these things that I experience in my life as a human being, I could now trace back and go, oh, that's Alakshmi. And so please feel free to share in the chat if you've ever heard of Alakshmi before, and if you have, what you've heard about her. So what I learned, as you can see in this photo, it's not really much of a beautiful background. She's not wearing any jewels whatsoever. She looks tired. She looks a little haggard. She looks like she's had a rough life. She does not have a smile on her face. She's been through it. And she looks like she could use more light and more sattva in her life. And so Alakshmi is the sister of Lakshmi. And she's those opposing forces, those opposing attributes that we've heard of. And she is the goddess of misfortune, poverty, and deprivation. And so I see some comments in the chat. Oh, wonderful. You did hear, Jayanti shares, she did hear from her in the Roaring Wealth series 2 years ago. And some of you have not heard of her until today. And then one more share. I've heard of her as a sister of Lakshmi, a shadow side of the same coin, essentially. Exactly. So we're going to spend some time with her today. We're going to learn about her attributes and how she shows up in our daily lives. And I encourage all of you to take some screenshots of the next following slides and to really don't judge yourself when you think of maybe a Lakshmi is very present in your life, and just let all of this wisdom come to you in a very calm and actually a grateful way, because ultimately, in order to go from shadow to light, from darkness to light, we need to be aware of the darkness, and we need to have gratitude for its lessons, because without it, we wouldn't have been able to alchemize it into sattva and into light. So just pay attention to what comes up for you and maybe take some notes. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so here we go. So Alakshmi is attracted and feels affinity to darkness, discontentment, apathy, sloth, and that tamas guna. So those qualities that make us feel heavy, stagnant, stuck, not clear. And Shunyaji shares in tamas, both light and movement are absent. Tamas literally means darkness. It is the principle of inertia. And so before we really get into her attributes, I just want to share with you what Shunyaji shared, is that when you notice a Lakshmi in your life, you can tell her to go away. Yes, we're grateful for you. We're grateful that you showed us the lessons, but we have inner authority to tell you to go away. And we no longer need you. And we can evoke Lakshmi and tell Alakshmi goodbye. So it's easy to notice when she's around after learning about her and to have her go away. You have that inner authority. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Her attributes are darkness, inertia, and apathy, indifference, having a hard time making a decision, ignorance, sloth, confusion, bewilderment, passivity, negativity, heavy, enveloping, ignorance, lack of initiative, and ambiguous. So can I just see a raise of hand? How many of you can see a Lakshmi in your life from these attributes? Myself included. Yes, I see almost everyone with a raised hand. Yes, and so we're going to go deeper into how exactly she shows up in our lives and what tools and tips we can use to get her to go away. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Okay, so Shunyaji asked these two very important questions. How does a Lakshmi show up in your life? Sorry about this. How does a Lakshmi show up in your life? And, you know, who is it that you're paying attention to? And so maybe just take a moment and think about that before we go back into the slides. How is a Lakshmi showing up in your life? Just take a moment, maybe write a note down. Okay. And are you throwing a welcoming party for a Lakshmi? Are you welcoming her into your life without even knowing? Sorry, I don't know why my ringer is doing that. Okay. So let's move on to the next slide. And this is where I recommend taking pictures. It's a lot of information. I don't want to overwhelm anyone with information. So I encourage you after today's session to really sit with all of this and take a good look at your daily life and to see where she's mainly showing up for you so you can course correct. And so really the two main ways that Alakshmi shows up is in our inner home, which is in our mind, our thoughts, our belief, our identity, and in our outer home, our environment, and our relationships, our work, our physical home, and our physical bodies. So really, Alakshmi is everywhere. And we probably have set patterns where Alakshmi is just like this goddess that is so used to being in our lives that we really are going to have to work on breaking through the tamas and bringing in the sattva and evoking Lakshmi to truly get rid of her. And since April, and since I've learned about Alakshmi, I've really spent every single day pointing out like, oh, that's Alakshmi. And it's really, really helped me to see where she's coming in for me to have more awareness about it and to ask her to go away and then to do sadhana and to do practices to keep her away. So for me, it's this ongoing journey that I've been really enjoying. And so without the light of sattva, our senses get stuck on seeking comfort and constant gratification. This can look like sleeping too much, eating too much, mindlessly watching media, images, stories, etc. And I know nowadays there's, those phrases like Netflix and chill. And for some of us, sleeping in is, like our go-to, and eating too much or not eating the right foods. And that's when all of our senses get dull and the tamas really takes over. And then from doing these things, not taking care of ourselves properly, it leads to procrastination. It leads to our home not being pure and clean. It leads to piles of laundry. I have 4 children. I have sometimes lots of clean laundry, but is it folded and is it put away? No. And then am I staring at piles of laundry? Yes. And is that upsetting my sattva? Yes. Piles of paperwork, unpaid bills, avoiding commitments, right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and we can see how this can be a cycle where it's really easy to stay in this energy and how hard it is to stay sustained and to stay consistent by keeping her away. And she also leads us into confusion and bewilderment by lack of clarity, willful ignorance, ignoring or avoiding responsibilities, putting things off, things left undone. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And then through all of this procrastination, through all of this inner and outer tamas, not knowing the right thing to do and just causing further delays, further problems for ourselves. So again, just take this information and really sit with it over the next couple of days and see where you would like to make changes. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. And I just really love how Acharya Shunya ji laid this all out for us to really have us analyze all of these qualities and how she can so easily show up for us. So when we think of the quality of passivity, ambiguity, and lack of initiative, how is a Lakshmi contributing to that? So from unmotivation, feeling frozen, depressed, not following through with agreements, casting yourself as a victim to circumstance and staying in that victim mentality, and having feelings of life happening to you and not for you. And this goes back to really not honoring your dharma and just feeling like the world is out to get you, which leads to negativity, right? And ignorance. And those lead to very tamasic and rajasic qualities of cynicism, pessimism, gossip, blaming, negative self-talk, bonding through complaining. I know we can probably all say we have people in our life, in our relationships, whether that's family members, whether that's colleagues at work, where we just kind of, even if it's not our go-to, if someone starts complaining for some reason, we just kind of go right there with them, and then we end up in this web. Or if you have that one friend, and even if it's kind of funny, maybe we get into these bad habits of getting into people's tamas and into their Alakshmi behavior. So not only do we have to be aware of our own Alakshmi behavior, but of others as well. And so complaining about the world and others, I mean, I feel like there's an agenda out there with everything going on in the world right now to just have nothing but complaints and to really just constantly fault find all of the problems. Racism, sexism, othering, addictions, obsessive attachments, holding on to past complaints and stories and not letting things go, not forgiving, not seeing our own part in things. Is this kind of all sounding like maybe this is something that shows up for you in your lives, right? And then the last part of this slide is how then heavy and enveloping this can all feel, and it can just kind of take over, and how truly hard it can be to break through all of this darkness and all of these patterns and all of this setup to keep us in this deprivation, to keep us in this misfortune. And that leads to depression, that leads to overwhelm, that leads to feelings of thinking nothing will change, everything is bad, which then leads to more Alakshmi behaviors and more of her energy in our lives. So let's just take a moment with this slide and think about maybe 3 ways that Alakshmi is showing up for you. Maybe take each column and think about how she's showing up for you particularly and what you're going to do to cast her away. And if you're feeling brave enough to share, of course, we always resonate with your shares. Absolutely no pressure. I think for me, I will be honest and share complaining about the world and others. I think, you know, all of us students as spiritual seekers, we really have a lot of compassion and a lot of empathy. And so when we see so much injustice in the world and wrongdoing, it can be really easy to point fingers and complain about the world, complain about politicians, complain about policies or whatever it is. And I really realized after my own inner contemplation that I am done with that. That yes, awareness is important, consciousness is important about, you know, mishappenings in the world, but ultimately complaining about it is not helping me. And it's not going to get me any further. And it's going to kind of keep me in this Alakshmi behavior. And what's better for me is praying for the benefit of all human beings and the upliftment of consciousness for all human beings, and chanting and praying and taking care of myself and wishing the best for everyone will do a lot more benefit than complaining. So that's something that I've really stopped doing. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. And let's look at more qualities and how these qualities are obstructing our natural affinity for abundance. So we've talked a lot already about darkness of the mind, that tamas, where light and movement are absent. So when we have darkness of the mind and we're not in that Lakshmi abundant attitude, can we see the opportunities that come our way? And therefore, are we focused on immediate gratification and comfort seeking? So when things don't go our way and we're not opening ourselves to opportunities in the world, what do? Are we comfort seeking? Are we giving into our five senses? Are we giving into pleasure that's not serving our body temple and not serving our mind? Because as we know, everything we ingest with our five senses, we have to assimilate and digest. And so what are we blocking from our lives and from our birthright of our abundance by the darkness of our own minds? I think is a very deep inquiry that we can all benefit from. And so these qualities of inertia, apathy, and sloth. And so when we're stuck in those qualities and attributes, how do we take initiative when opportunity arrives? So maybe we've had these opportunities, but we've kept the door closed. And maybe we didn't even realize we had the opportunities because we were stuck in so much tamas, dark energy. And when we're not moving and when we're stuck and when we're stagnant, we're not going forward with that momentum to bring those opportunities to us. And then the next part of that leads to confusion and bewilderment. And so, do you recognize what brings you abundance? Are you paying attention to what brings you abundance? Are you honoring what brings you abundance? And are you choosing dharmic opportunities in your life? And that right there, I think, is very, very powerful because as we know with her four hands, dharma is of utmost importance to Ma Lakshmi. And because she's so diligent in following her dharma, the opportunities and her wealth is overflowing. Her coins and her beauty and her essence. I mean, she is the ultimate earth mother. Look at what she gives to us in spring. Look at the blooms outside, the scents, just the visualization of these flowers and these plants and these delicious, juicy fruits and these herbs that we use as medicine. She just has so much to offer us. And by simply following her ethical duties, it's easy, it's pleasurable, it's bliss. She's so content. And so really figuring out in life if you're choosing to welcome dharmic opportunities or if you're choosing to sit in this Alakshmi deprivation energy. And so then, therefore, do you take responsibility? Do you welcome Lakshmi? Do you welcome Alakshmi? And I think that those are very easy questions that we can ask ourselves without, of course, being more negative towards ourselves and putting ourselves down and being critical of ourselves. That is not the point. These are just really powerful reflections for us to be honest and to surrender to Ma Lakshmi, and again, to ask for her agency and support. Okay. So we have one more slide that we're moving on to really see where this Alakshmi energy is. So the next slide, these qualities right here, passivity. Oh no, we went over that. Okay. So some questions to ask. Are you on the fence or sending mixed signals to those opportunities and avenues of prosperity that come your way? And for me, this was a really powerful reflection for my studentship, being a student of Acharya Shunya ji, having all this wisdom. It still takes a lot of work for me on a daily basis to tell Alakshmi to go away. I think we all have situations in our lives, challenges, obstacles where it can be kind of easy to justify being in a Lakshmi behavior. You know, having 4 children, maybe like sleepless nights. Maybe I have too often given myself the green light to sleep in, like I deserve more sleep, right? These are just some examples that I have really gotten very real with myself about these opportunities that I have in my life, and is a Lakshmi blocking me from ascending higher and higher and living up to my true potential. And so what is keeping you from taking action? And what is keeping you from your dharma? And what is keeping you from your ascension and to ascending higher on your own spiritual path? And so with negativity and ignorance are you blaming others? Maybe you have a lot of trouble in your relationships with, your family members or your boss. Are you feeling like a victim? Are you isolating yourself from abundance? And do you believe that there isn't enough, or Lakshmi is not for you? Because as we all know, she is for everyone, and she is especially for those who call upon her. And lastly, with this heavy and enveloping, it even kind of just, as you could, maybe you're feeling it now, it just feels heavy talking about all of this and having to reflect upon all of this. It's like, wow, this goes deep, right? Like Alakshmi can really be in multiple places in our lives. And as Shunyaji said in our retreat, it can take decades of our lives from us being in this inertia. And, are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, weighted down? And are you choosing light and Shri? And so all of this to say, we're again going back to gratitude. We're giving gratitude to Goddess Alakshmi. She is a goddess. She does have lessons to teach us. And even if she's kept us from the light for a very long time, and even if it's really hard for her to go away, we have all of the tools that we need to choose light, to welcome Lakshmi, and to tell Alakshmi to go away. So that's the good news, is there's no need to worry. There's no need to panic, and there's no need to put yourself down. We're simply seeing and paying very close attention to where she is, where she's showing up, and where we do not want her. And so the next slide is a visual, of Lakshmi and Alakshmi side by side, and who are you making comfortable? And I really like seeing them side by side, and you could just feel the difference of this golden beauty, this golden light, and then Alakshmi, this kind of tamasic, challenged, darker being. So that was a lot of information. Let's just take a moment and close our eyes. Breathe into the belly. And be at peace with Alakshmi's presence in your life. And talk to her. Tell her what it is she needs to hear from you. As we all know, this is a journey from darkness to light. And so give gratitude to Alakshmi for her lessons. And when you're ready, take a nice deep inhalation, and on the exhale, make a nice big sound. Exhaling all of that negative energy out of you. And now breathe in the essence of Lakshmi. Smile. Bring your hands back to prayer at your heart. And open up your lotus again. And smile, looking down. An inner gaze at your lotus. And give gratitude for your own beautiful, abundant, wealthy self. And connect with the frequencies of your own heart. And just sit with your own brilliance. Om Shrim Shriye Namaha. Om Shrim Shriye Namaha. Om Shrim Shriye Namaha. When you're ready, close your lotus. Bring your hands to your heart one last time. Smile, thinking of Ma Lakshmi. And release. Let's just take a break from these slides. And I would just love to hear in the chat, or feel free to raise your hands, how this information is sitting with you today. What insights are coming to you, or what words are coming to you. I'd love to hear. And maybe while you're all gathering yourselves, I'm going to call upon you, Kalyani, because you were at this retreat as well, and you learned about Alakshmi. And I'd love to hear, since April, what has been your process with this goddess?
Thank you, Sadhya Soumya, for inviting me to share. I could relate to so much of what you were sharing. Just starting right off with thinking about the Purusharthas and thinking about my dharma and which of my roles and activities were supporting my dharma. I have been thinking about whether a couple of volunteer roles that I am in align with that, and really looking at some of these Alakshmi tendencies starting to creep in with that of, procrastination, or just not feeling that joy, feeling that heaviness, that tamas coming, and this process of, why is that happening? Am I, in terms of Lakshmi, reminding us of our self-worth and to value ourselves and to expect value from others? Am I not being valued and just for my contributions? And so this is really, it's brought me to this place of, slowly, right, in terms of making the transition in an honorable, in a dharmic way, an ethical way. But it's brought me to this realization that perhaps this is something that I do need to let go of, to really come into sending Lakshmi away and bringing in Lakshmi. And then just, so again, that developing of clarity, right? Bringing in that sattva. And, from just from a more everyday perspective, yeah, bringing in, when I was doing some vacuuming and such, just thinking before, where it'd be like, oh my goodness, I need to just vacuum and spend some time now, and really reframing that as, yes, there is a Lakshmi, and I am sending her away by vacuuming. I'm bringing in Lakshmi by doing these, in the mundane, right? She is here. It's an opportunity to bring in Lakshmi and send a Lakshmi away. And on the topic of cleanliness, and, you had the examples of piled up paperwork, and what has occurred to me is like piled up inbox, right? Piled up virtual email. And it definitely has been a place where I have welcomed a Lakshmi very much. And so that's been an opportunity as well for me to start slowly clearing that clutter. And again, just that kindness, right? Like, oh my goodness, I haven't done this for years. And like, okay, that's okay. A Lakshmi is teaching me, and I am now welcoming Lakshmi in, welcoming that cleanliness in, that lightness, that balance. And just, I could definitely relate and have had some thoughts of, what you had shared about the times of, sleeping in on weekends, or the complaining with what has been happening in the world and such. So yeah, just really kind of slowly contemplating this, and really and cultivating gratitude. Om Shrim Shriye Namaha is one of the mantras that I chant in the morning now. And just having that moment of thinking everything that I do have to be grateful for. And it's just this remembrance, and really just trying to find ways. It's a journey, right? And so, of course, it's a journey to do it more and more, but really having that remembrance. And I think the springtime, as you were saying, that really does support that. If I'm feeling a bit, heavier, to think these birds are singing, the sun is shining. This is Ma Lakshmi just bringing in this abundance, no matter what samsara I'm creating in my mind. There is so much to be grateful for. And I just immediately feel that lightness and that sattva increasing. And so really working on cultivating that contentment as well. So these teachings have really been powerful for me, and I know that's just going to continue as I continue to churn, and as you said, continue to be gentle with myself in these areas that I'm still welcoming Lakshmi, and that I need to work on welcoming in Lakshmi more. But it is this relief, right? Of like, wherever we are in this journey, it's never too late to welcome her, and that she's always there. And that's such a comfort, that she's always there and always ready to support us, not from a judging place, but from a place of being a mother, and just wanting to embrace us and say, come to me, child, and claim this abundance that you deserve. So it's just been a really wonderful, reflective, illuminating process so far, and I am sure it's going to continue.
Beautiful. Your share really highlights the art and the science of the Vedas and how it can be fun and joyful, and how we can use this mananam, use our contemplation, and how it can bring us adventure and joy. So thank you for bringing that light, beauty, energy to your share. Wonderful. Is there anyone else who feels called to share?
I'll pitch in. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Arya.
I also too had the great fortune of attending the session with Kalyani and of course offered by Acharya Ji. And it's so easy to focus on Lakshmi. It's such a beautiful character, but I didn't really realize that this particular system also incorporates the absence of Lakshmi or the opposite of Lakshmi. So this little session tonight was helpful to remind me of that, because it's very easy for me to get into these commonplace negativities, whether it's complaining about the rain or whether it's complaining about just there's not enough time or whatever. So this is I appreciate this session to bring us back to the ingrained patterns, often cultural patterns that do not support Lakshmi. So thank you very much. It was a good reminder.
Thank you, Arya. I agree. I was very pleased when Shunya Ji started to share these teachings. My ears perked up, and it's just brought so much room for growth. Oh, you're muted. Go ahead, Arya, again.
Is it the same thing with other goddesses? Like, do we have Saraswati and Adurga and all this? The negative or the contradictory qualities of these goddesses are also recognized as that way?
That's a really good question that I don't know the proper answer to. I will ask that question. I'm assuming, with any qualities, there's always opposing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always just a system to bring us back to those higher qualities, just to remind us, to kind of segment it. This is, yeah, I think it's, yes.
That's a good question, though. I'll follow up on that.
No, I imagine it is very clear, because the whole thing is about changing our patterns of thought, our patterns of being in the world. And so obviously there's always going to be contrast, what we really want to have and what is a little less ideal.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is anyone else feeling called to share? And again, please, you can also type into the chat. Shweta, yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Jai Ma, this was such a beautiful session. Thank you, Sadhya, Soumya. It brought up a lot of different thoughts and emotions. First is, I've had these moments in my life where I'm just tamasic and confused on what the next step is, confused about what my dharma is. And I think over the last year and a half, I've just been contemplating and just doing a lot of soul searching on what's my dharma. Yes, it is to find my true self or uncover my true self, because it's always there. I've just hidden it with all these layers. But in my day-to-day, in the transactional reality, what is my dharma? And this has come up for me a lot because I work in tech, and it's very fast-paced and it brings good money, but it's always been at odds with kind of what I want out of life. Like, I want simplicity and the simple joys of life, but I'm in like a totally different environment, and it's all about, getting the next step, getting a promotion, getting more and more, getting stocks and all this external wealth. And so I've had kind of these two opposing desires, if you will. And I always like thought I could never really put my finger on what it like. How can I, on one side, be following all this sattvic spiritual knowledge and in my transactional reality, be wanting more and more out of my job and money and what I thought was abundance, and the Lakshmi teaching just kind of gave me something to anchor it on. It's like I'm kind of grappling with Alakshmi in my life in that aspect where it's really confusing me. You had one of your slides, bewilderment and confusion, and that's how it's showing up for me because I've struggled with like saying, hey, this might not be the right like job for me right now in this moment, even though I'm good at it and I get recognized a lot. It's if you look at it externally, I'm checking all the boxes, but it doesn't feel quite right. It feels like it's taking me away from my dharmic path, and I'm not able to make a decision of like, enough. I've done it. I've checked the boxes. It's time now for this new chapter. And I haven't quite got there yet. And I can see that it's a Lakshmi operating. I have this fear of missing out if I leave the job market at the height of my career, at the height of my, like tech skills. But it's all driven by the wrong thing. And the other thing that came up for me today was that what I always thought of abundance, and I grew up in India. So praying to Lakshmi was like a common thing, but it was all about like, give me wealth, Lakshmi, give me like money and give me abundance. But as we dive in our satsangs, abundance, that's not abundance. It's not these external things. And today, just like I had this moment while you were talking, like the abundance is me. I am the abundance I'm seeking. It's all in me. It's not the gold and the coins flowing out of Lakshmi's hands. It's really a representation of the knowledge that's inside. And so that was really powerful. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your transparency and your share. And your share really reminds me of that evoking the bhava. And like Shunyaji said, Lakshmi is all about the heart. And so always returning to the heart when we're faced with these life decisions and these tough decisions and not exactly sure or clear which way to go. And that we use Ma Lakshmi as our agency and as our support. So by visualizing her, by meditating with her, contemplating her, chanting her mudra, the answer will be shown to us, right? And just by simply connecting to our heart and, like you said, our inner abundance, our inner golden aura, everything will be peaceful and we will be so content. And so that's the invitation. And that's what these teachings really bring us, is a deep intimacy with Ma Lakshmi. And just bowing at her feet and asking for her help and asking for her support and praying to her and recognizing her in nature, whatever is bringing you joy. And revisiting Shunyaji's words about Lakshmi in her book, Roar Like a Goddess. And I wrote a couple of notes from our time just to end with a couple of simple things that we can do, is to keep an active gratitude list of what brings us gratitude, and create energy areas that remind you of Ma Lakshmi. So at work, maybe bringing in a plant or bringing in a little deity or whatever it is. In our home, and in our work areas, creating Ma Lakshmi energy spaces, and smiling when you lay in bed at night and remembering her is a really powerful way. And the one last thing I'm going to say is the importance of laughter cheerfulness, positivity, and smiling. And those are all Lakshmi traits that we think are simple, but they're very deep and very profound. So by sharing our laughter, sharing our smile, sharing our positivity, all of that abundance will come to us, and we will have the clear, concise attitude that we need to move forward. So thank you all for joining and for being so present and for sharing. And this is, I know, a lot of information, but it really is very powerful just to continually reflect upon. And please share in the community forum if more things come to you. And I'm just going to check the chat one last time. Thank you, Parisa. Thank you, Sarah and Jayanti. Thank all of you. And thank you to this lineage and to Acharya Shunya Ji for these teachings. And for all of us for showing up and doing what we know best serves our highest truth.